based on what I heard earlier, I feel like you don't think I belong here.
Oh,
because
really?
Of
Why?
how I am a black man, and because of the I'm not qualified enough
Are you?
to be here.
Young man, white people are not your problem. Your parents are. What you're about to see is Charlie Kirk debate a young black man at a college about DEI and this woke victim mentality that so many young black people are falling into. You know, I myself almost adapted that mentality when I was about 17, 18 years old. Until my great grandma told me, kid, you don't even know what racism is. I'm Tamara. You're watching the Tamara Neely Show. I would like to welcome back all my returning subscribers. And if you're new here, I would like to let you know I'm happy you're here. Okay, so you're about to see a debate between Charlie Kirk and a young man at a college who believes that he is a victim of racism because he is black. Even though he's in college, he's been given great opportunities to succeed, and he lives in the greatest country on planet Earth. Somehow, some way, he is still a victim. The question is, how? Before we get to the first segment of this show, I want to quickly say a word of prayer, okay? So, Lord, I just thank you that we're more than conquerors through Christ Jesus. I ask you to open the doors that you want to be open, shut the doors that you want to be closed, and put me in the rooms and put us in the rooms that you want us to be in. Help us to see that we were made in your image and that you have great plans for us. Help us to take initiative, help us to take personal responsibility, and help us not to make excuses and complain. Because we know that murmuring and complaining is what stops us from getting to where you want us to be. Help us, Lord, so that we can succeed. In Jesus' name, amen. So without further ado, I want to get to the first segment of this show. This will be an evening show. So if you are joining me this evening, I want to welcome you to the Tamara Neely Show. I'm dedicated to doing everything with excellence. So this is probably my third time filming this show because I am going to the next level and continuing to better my craft, which requires practice and excellence. Okay? Excellence. So let's get into the first segment of today's show. All right, y'all. So before we get into this, I want to quickly note that later on in the next segment of this show, I'm going to be playing a clip from a black man who happens to be a very accomplished business owner who's not fallen into this victim mentality. This is someone who sets a great example for young black men and just people in general of how to be successful no matter what your life story is. You know, because at the end of the day, we all have a story and we all have the opportunity to complain about something. And when you murmur and complain, I'm telling you, that's how you end up missing out on great opportunities, is because you can't see the blessing right in front of you. And so we're only going to play about 10 minutes at most of this video, and then we're going to get into the next segment, because in the next segment, we're going to talk about what is actually happening due to this victim mentality, what the consequences of this victim mentality is, because there are serious consequences. Also, I want to quickly shout out Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is doing a great job. Thank you, Charlie, for everything that you're doing for Generation Z, because it's men like you who are responsible for who are responsible for Gen Z being one of the most conservative generations in American history. It all starts with the conversation. And that's what youth are looking for and that's what the youth are needing, is for people to have conversations with them about their ideas. Because all it takes is a little challenge for some people to realize that maybe they're wrong. And so let's listen to just 10 minutes of this, talk about it really quick, and go to the next segment.
All right. I'm here to ask the age-old question, DEI.
Okay, great.
Yeah, give me your perspective on DEI, and because based on what I heard earlier, I feel like you don't think I belong here.
Oh,
because
really?
of
Why?
How I am a black man, and because of DEI, I'm not qualified enough
Are you?
to be here. Yes, I am.
Okay, great.
So he says that he started off with an I feel statement, which is something that we see more happening more and more in the black community when it comes to men and their feelings. Okay? So we're seeing that more black men are becoming feminine. And we're seeing this in the media. It's being celebrated. It's being encouraged for black men to embrace the dresses and embrace these ideas of embracing how they feel and let's cry and let's do this. And we're seeing this not in just the black community, but in men in general. Okay? Like we're seeing men in today's society focus more on their feelings instead of facts. And we need to make sure that men are being men. And starting off with an I feel statement just tells me where you're coming from. Just saying.
But why do I have to prove that to you? Like,
You know, you brought it up. I didn't.
Okay, but can you explain to me your position on DEI?
Yes, people should not be in positions just because of the color of their skin. Hard stop.
Okay, but do you feel like I'm here because
I'm not feeling anything towards you, actually. Okay. I'm not prejudicing you. I'm not stereotyping you. I'm saying it's a material.
I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are.
No, you are. You said I don't feel comfortable being here. You started with.
I didn't say I wasn't comfortable being here. I said I feel like you made it to where I got here through DEI.
So let's examine that. What have I said that makes you feel that way?
When you mentioned how DEI is only just putting people of color and marginalized groups in spaces, even if they're not so and so
correct.
Qualified.
That's exactly what DEI is.
But that's not all that it does. You're categorizing it as something it isn't.
No, that's exactly that is the charter mission.
That's not all.
Okay, so diversity, equity. So equity is outcome based. Is about making people who are of different skin colors have the same outcome, regardless whether or not they are qualified. The best example we have of this is the Students for Fair Admission Harvard Supreme Court case, where black students, they did not, literally, they could have a SAT score 300 points lesser than the Asian equivalent and still get into Harvard. That is DEI in practice. I believe when you're hiring for an organization or for a company or for whatever you are doing, you should prioritize merit and character, and race should mean nothing. We should build around things that matter and not things that don't matter.
What's wrong with that? They'd be wondering why Charlie Kirk is saying this. Well, my ex-boyfriend, who happens to be white, and he's a former college football player, very successful, has a great, amazingly smart engineer. He told me that he had applied for a scholarship and he could not get it because he was white. He was like, they told him that he did meet all the standards, but because of his race, they could not give him this scholarship. That's why people like Charlie Kirk are speaking out against DEI, is because they are noticing that white kids are being discriminated against because they are white when it comes to college admissions. And it's not just white kids, it's Asian kids as well. And so now the best people for the job are not even being given the opportunity because companies and colleges are choosing people based off of race. That's why people are questioning people's qualifications. Now, we know good and well that there are amazing black people out there who are qualified for the job, who are there because they do a great job. And it's not based off of their race. But because of DEI and the standard that DEI has set, it has made the work of hardworking black people be questioned. And I don't like that, because I know great black people, including myself, who are working hard and making things happen every single day.
You have to also take into the fact that black people have only been able to completely legally be able to make profit for themselves for around 60 years. And this is no. Since segregation ended in 1965 in the Equal Rights Act in 1965, so there's not.
How did that? So let's talk about you. How did that impact you? How did something that happened 60 years ago impact your life?
It impacts me all the time.
How?
Okay.
You're at Texas A&M. You're doing great.
Okay. Yes. Sure. Yeah.
So are you a living example that all that's a bunch of nonsense and you can just act good and behave well and succeed?
But there's also living examples of the exact opposite. If you look in the impoverished neighborhoods in certain parts of Chicago or St. Louis, there's black communities being thrown aside Because they're not getting education.
Thrown
they're not-
aside. Okay,
Yes,
so
thrown aside.
I think we can get somewhere. Why have the black community gotten poorer since the passage of the Civil Rights Act? Tell me that.
Because of the way the culture has been perpetuated through the
Hold
years.
on. Think about it. So they were richer when we were segregated and more racist. America's become less racist.
What about Tulsa?
Yeah, no one's going to defend what happened in Tulsa. Again, but let's talk.
But that's-
We're talking about a lot of
that's
different cities. We're talking about
example
Chicago, Tulsa. But let's again, this is a very important point. Why is it that Black America has gotten richer on average, poorer on average, since America passed all these anti-racist laws?
I can't answer that.
Okay, yeah. So do you think the fact that 70% of Black youth don't have a dad around is probably pretty important?
That's because of the culture.
So let
Charlie Kirk is exactly right. Unfortunately, we are seeing that 80% of the Black community is being born out of wedlock. And we know that children who are born out of wedlock are far more likely to commit crimes, struggle with school, and go to prison. The list goes on and on. It's sadly true. So the solution to this is to stop having children out of wedlock, marry before you carry, and make good choices. Then you won't have to think about all these mental gymnastics, and you won't even be worried about this stuff. You'll be so focused on being successful, and in turn it will help your community be successful, that you're not worried about what happened in 1960. But unfortunately, maybe this kid, I don't know his circumstances, but I'm just going to say in general, a lot of Black kids are having to go through so much at home, and it's making them perform. It's making it to where they're not performing at the best rate. They're not actually being competitive because they've got so much trouble happening at home. And then they're having to overcompensate in areas which lead to bad outcomes for so many. So when are we going to have a real conversation about what's happening? Because I understand why this kid is saying what he's saying. He's saying this because he sees what's happening in the Black community, but unfortunately he's not understanding that it has nothing to do with white people. It has nothing to do with white Americans of today. It has everything to do with Black American choices of today. Do you see what I'm saying?
respectfully allow me to interject. How does the white culture impact the fact whether or not a Black dad stays around when he impregnates a
I'm not
woman?
saying it's the white culture.
What is it?
The culture that has been perpetuated through the 200 years of slavery, the 100 years of segregation, and Jim Crow laws.
The marriage, so I got to interject again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt too much. But in 1960, before the Civil Rights Act, 20% of Black youth had a dad around. Now it's, 20% were single fathers, 80% had a dad around. It's been inverted. So we actually have seen Black dads run away from their kids the last 60 years. Why is that?
Because of the raised incarceration rates, because of the perpetuated culture.
So how does one go to jail?
That's obvious. I'm not answering that.
Yeah, so maybe it's because they committed crimes.
Okay, but when you're forced for it's not just this is old, this is in the past, this doesn't affect you anymore.
Okay, so actually let's take a different group. How did the Holocaust impact Jews? They're doing pretty well.
Well, because they got reparations, we didn't.
How? What reparations did the Jews
Through
get?
acknowledgement, through money, through
No, we acknowledge slavery happened. So,
okay, but you're sitting here and acting like it plays no role.
no,
now.
but to your argument.
Well, there is Black History Month. So it is being acknowledged that slavery happened, and we've seen, I mean, even with this DEI initiative, so many Black people have been able to benefit off of it. It's been in place long enough to where Black people have been able to get the benefits, and at some point, you've got to take the training wheels off. DEI was put in place to give you that hand up. Now you're wanting it to be a handout, and that's the thing, is at some point, you got to say, you know what? We've got it from here. But unfortunately, the Black community hasn't gotten to that point because they are still making bad choices that are creating generational cycles. And those bad choices are starting in the home.
The Holocaust was 80 years ago. Half of all the Jews on the planet were killed. Everything they earned was taken. Jews are doing great. They're the wealthiest subgroup, racial group or ethnic group in America. If all of a sudden something that happened 80 years ago impacts your material prosperity, how did Jews defy the curve? How did poor Asians do so well? Why is it that Asians are now the wealthiest minority in America, many of whom came with no money in the 1950s or 60s?
Because of the culture and opportunities that were provided to them.
But you're not hearing me out. Black Americans have had the same opportunities. However, here
people still look at us like criminals every day.
Hold on, but I don't look at you like a criminal.
I'm not saying
but,
you do. I'm saying some people do.
But I mean, do you want me to be brutally honest with you, or do you want me to be
Yes,
politically
be
correct?
brutally honest with you.
Okay. Do black people commit more crimes than white people? It's not even close.
Okay.
Okay.
But you have to take in a.
There's no but. That's what we're seeing in the Carmelo Anthony case. Is it's a but. And that's the thing is no, there has to be accountability. Black people are committing more crimes, more violent crimes than any other race in this country. And we have to start questioning why is that happening, and we've got to start holding black people accountable for that. We can't have this soft crime approach, or else we are going to see every city become like Chicago. So therefore we've got to have a serious conversation. This kid is saying, but. There's no but. There needs to be accountability. Personal initiative. Responsibility. You would think this kid is in college. In college, you should have critical thinking skills enough. You should have enough critical thinking skills to be able to reason through life. How have we gotten this far away to where kids who are in college can't even think clearly? Because they're so bound by their emotions. And that's the thing, is we are missing a lot in this country. We're missing God, which of course I know the Lord, you know the Lord, if you're watching this more than likely. But I'm talking about in general. In this country, our country is lacking a reverence for God and his sovereignty. Family, community. That's what being a conservative is about. Conservatives value faith, family, community, and meaningful work. That's what makes a true conservative, somebody who embodies the conservative heart. That's why Charlie Kirk is so happy with his family. That's why Officer Tatum is so happy with his family. That's why you see other people out there who are very successful and who are going far, is because they understand that you need those 4 things. Pick you up a book called The Conservative Heart by author C. Brooks, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. We've got to encourage people to take initiative, to take personal responsibility, and not make excuses.
The culture that has been perpetuated.
Okay, got it. So we can agree on this. Do you mean internal black culture?
It's deeper than that. Like,
do you think, let's take time out. Do you think the average rap artist that a black kid in the hood is listening to is glorifying marriage and family and saving your money?
That's what sells, because it's a culture thing. It's just within the black community.
I agree. No, but hold on.
Everyone listens to it. It's not just isolated.
It's bad for everyone who listens to it. The point being is that black youth, as they are being raised, their role models are largely not glorifying staying with one woman, getting married, going to church. And if you're right. Show me the black role models that are doing that. There might be a couple I could think of, maybe. But if it's about culture, you're right. The internal black culture has collapsed.
Yeah, we're not seeing that. And we've got to be honest about it. It's not going to get better until you can face it. And the sad part is that black people don't want to face the truth. They don't want to face the truth. Look at this young man's face right here. Look at him. He is looking like, I ain't taking it. Whatever you're saying, I'm not accepting it. But let me tell you something about this black young man, more than likely. He's thinking about it. And that's what I'm grateful for. This black young man is more than likely thinking about it. I'm happy that they even showed up to this event, to be honest. I'm happy that they're there because they're thinking about something. So maybe their thinking may be off right now. But these same black men could be the next generation. They could be, in the next couple years, they could be the conservative. They could be some of the biggest conservative champions in this country. So that's why I appreciate Charlie Kirk hearing them out and really taking the time to talk to them. Because sometimes you just don't know. At the beginning of this show, I told you that my great grandma told me, kid, you don't know what racism is. Okay? And sometimes kids just got to know that. And they got to hear it from somebody older than them. So people who are a little bit more seasoned than I am, Don't stop telling the kids the truth because they need to hear it and they are looking to you. Even if you think that they're not listening and, oh, Tamara, they don't listen, and I'm always saying this, just keep saying it and say it in a way that they can understand it. Because at the end of the day, they are going to be the people who determine the outcome of this country in the next, in years to come. We're already seeing that Gen Z is starting to play a role in elections. So we need Gen Z. He's thinking about it. Do y'all see this?
We're no longer elevating the family. We're no longer elevating staying with the person that you're with. So our contention here as conservatives is that the systemic racism stuff is a bunch of rubbish. Instead, it's systemic bad. Of course not. What can I do that you can't do? Name it.
Okay.
No, seriously. What can I do that you can't do?
That's a slippery slope.
No, it's not.
I don't know why.
Very simple. No, because back in 1940, you would have been able to answer that question. Well, Charlie, there's a bathroom over there.
Yeah, that's a great question. What can Charlie do that this young man can't do? But the difference between this mindset and this mindset is that this mindset, the mindset that Charlie Kirk has, knows that it's all you have to do is be willing to take personal responsibility and take initiative and work hard. Yes, there are going to be people who slam doors in your face and tell you no, and people who look at you kind of like, there's going to be people like that. But if you're determined, you're more than likely going to get there. If you work hard and you make things happen and put God first. I'm not going to let that slip now, because at the end of the day, he is the one who makes everything happen for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So when you put him first, he's able to give you amazing visions, dreams, and help you reach your goals and the outcomes you want out of life. So this mindset over here, unfortunately, it seems like this young man is just he's just like, well, because my mom or because my dad or because of this or because of that, he's making excuses and he's complaining. It gets annoying. Stop complaining. Stop making excuses. Everybody's got excuses. As my softball coach used to tell me, excuses are like buttholes. Everybody's got one. That was one of his famous quotes.
I can't go to. There's a major league team.
I can't walk into the grocery store and get the same looks that you do. I walked into Brookshire Brothers a couple weeks ago.
That's an insanely hyper-paranoid way of living life. But that's not evidence, right?
It's a real.
Okay. By the way, if I walk into a black neighborhood, I get bad looks too. Okay. So I don't know what the contention is.
Because of the way you treat our culture and the way you perpetuate.
Oh, wait, hold on. The way we treat your culture, we have gone to such great calisthenics and ridiculous gymnastics to prove that we're not racist. In fact, it's the worst thing that you could be called in America. We had
And white people have gone so far to prove that they're not racist that white kids of today are not even being able to reap the benefits of working hard because they're being rejected because of their race. That's how far white people have gone to show that they're not racist if we want to be real. And so we've got to be honest and say that at the end of the day, we've got to we cannot keep going with this DEI stuff because it's getting to a point where it's giving people handouts instead of hand-ups. DEI was put in place. There have been a lot of black people who have benefited from it. And at some point, you've got to take the training wheels off and say, okay, you've got it now. To this guy's point, to this young man's point, DEI has helped some black people. Okay, we have seen many black people benefit from DEI because of the policy. Let's be honest. If the policy is the policy and you happen to fit the category that the policy is working for, you have benefited from the policy. Okay? So we know that DEI has been beneficial for some people, and some people have used that to work hard and to take advantage of it in a great way, and other people have used it to continue to push this victim narrative, which is what we're seeing with this young man. He is using it, but that's the thing, is in life, unfortunately, there are going to be people like this who, no matter how much you help them, they're still not going to believe that they're winners. And at that point, you've got to say, good luck to you, God bless you, and you got to keep going. And I'm going to play just one more minute of this because it's leading me into my next point, which is the fact that black people's jobs are now being replaced by illegal immigrants because black people believe that they're victims and believe that they can't succeed. Isn't that crazy? When you've got Africans who are coming over here and being super successful, they're making the American dream happen. They don't have a whole lot, when they come over here. And then next thing you know, they're some of the most successful people. I wonder why. It's because they have the right mindset.
George Floyd 2020, we had hundreds of millions of dollars given to Black Lives Matter. I don't know where that money went to improve material worth of black America. So, and we actually do know where it went, actually. And so, but going back to your main contention, when you practice DEI, because that was your main point, right? You are rewarding bad culture. You even acknowledge it. You are saying that someone should be there based on the color of their skin. We say skin color doesn't matter. If you want that position, work harder, study harder, and then you might be able to get that position.
When we're forced into underfunded communities where schools are based off of property value, we can't.
Well, actually, school choice is now the law of the land here in Texas, so that's not correct.
Secondly, do you just expect a single-parent home to pick up and move into some rich?
So I want to quickly say this about his point. One thing that my mom did is when we were kids and growing up, my mom wanted us to live in a good community. She wanted us to live in a mixed community, right? She wanted us to live around white and black people and everybody in between and get to know everybody and be exposed to different cultures. And that's how I've become who I am, is because I grew up in a mixed community. My mom made sacrifices to make sure that I was in a mixed community. Okay? And so black parents, you've got to start making those sacrifices if you want your kids to be around different people and understand different perspectives and be able to compete on a higher level. That's just a reality of it, because unfortunately, the black community, when black people are all together and they have this hood sort of community, unfortunately, it's only weighing them down instead of lifting them up. There's a big difference between a black school and a mixed race school. Okay? There's a big difference between that. And it's unfortunate, but it is true. And we've got to be honest with ourselves in order for anything to change.
Law of the land here in Texas, so that's not correct. Secondly,
do you just expect a single-parent home to pick up and move into some rich neighborhood?
Well, again, so let's go back to why are they the single-parent home? And that's because
nobody's expecting them to see that kind of argument. Now that I just said what I said, we just basically can throw that argument out. Because we didn't grow up in a rich home, but we grew up in a neighborhood where we were exposed to different mindsets and things like that, and we were around different cultures. I mean, we all played together, all did things together. I mean, great. I had a great childhood, and I appreciate it so much now that I'm older, because unfortunately, a lot of black people did not grow up in a mixed neighborhood. They didn't grow up around white people, so they think that white people are their enemy instead of their friend. It's just a reality, is so many black people are afraid of white people because they don't know white people. And then on the flip side, you've got white people afraid of black people because they don't know black people. And the thing is you just got to get to know each other. Talk to each other. Have conversations with each other. Don't be afraid to get to know one another. Because at the end of the day, this country is not just for white people. It's not just for black people. It is for a mix. I mean, this is a what they call a melting pot. Y'all got to learn how to get along. It's as simple as that. It's time to learn how to get along. All right, y'all. So we're coming to a close. We're almost out of time, but I want to play this video of Officer Tatum. Let's just listen to what Stephen A. asked Officer Tatum. Then he's going to eventually come around to the point of the illegal immigration that I had mentioned earlier.
In America, and I say this is unfortunate in part, that when you black, you come out a Democrat. Because when I was young, we didn't even vote. We weren't even deep into politics. But you just knew if you were going to vote, you voted for a Democrat, because the Democrat was for the black people and the Republicans were racist white people. That's what it was.
Thank God. Because of who I was raised by. That is not my story. Okay? Thank God. because my mother is a woman of prayer. I've come from a great family. And the way my mother taught me was so different. And I realize it now because at first I didn't see it. Not like I see it now. But I'm so blessed because she had a different understanding of the world. A great thinker.
And then when I grew up, I started being more informed and started looking at policy positions as a Christian man. I say, well, wait a minute. I don't think I agree with nothing that the Democrats are doing. I don't think I agree with any of it. I believe in God. I believe putting God first. I believe in marriages between a man and a woman. I mean, you go down the list. I don't want to pay no crazy amount of taxes just for them to be throwing your money like they at a strip club. So I'm saying when I look at the policy position, not the emotional manipulation of empathy that I see from the Democrat side and from D.L. Hughley and others, I look at policy and I say, well, the policy of lowering taxes makes sense. Thomas Sowell, the great economists, have already articulated, any economist will tell you, when they lower the taxes and taxes seem to be reasonable to the American people, they pay more into the treasury. When you raise the taxes, people try to evade taxes. Therefore, there's lower money coming into the treasury of the United States of America. So I'm for lowering taxes. I'm for, immigration policy. It don't make no sense whatsoever that people have to wait 10 years to come over here. And I think it's prejudice against some of the African nations because they don't get to just walk through the southern border. People waiting in line forever, paying all this money, fleeing actual persecution, and they don't have an opportunity because we have 20 million illegal aliens coming from the southern border right into our country. And D.L. Hughley didn't say a thing that I've seen about when Joe Biden was doing this and screwing black people over. Because where do they go, Stephen A? When these illegals come into America, they don't go to the foothills. They're not going to the affluent neighborhoods. They're not welcome at Martha's Vineyard. Mm-hmm. They are going and competing for low-skilled work in the inner cities. And therefore, they're putting black people out of employment because black people are working for citizen wages, which means that you're an American citizen, you have to work for minimum wage. These people coming over here, you can pay them under the table.
That's why when I hear this young man who's in college, who's been given a great opportunity, talk about victimhood, I'm like, sir, you're not even close to being a victim. You are going to graduate more than likely. If you've chosen a great major, you're going to get a good job, have great opportunities, and you're not even going to know how it feels to be in the situation where you're working for minimum wage. But unfortunately, a lot of black people know what that's like. Their jobs are being replaced by illegal immigration. And it's because they are believing this same mindset, which tells you this mindset is so deeply embedded in the black community that it is affecting people who don't have a college education, just like it is affecting people who do have a college education. It's so rooted deep. So we just got to keep praying. Because even though at the end of the day, there are some people who are not going to change and who are always going to have a mindset like this, but I can't help believe that maybe there are people who are willing to listen. Maybe there are people who are just waiting for someone's obedience to tell them the truth. Will you be that person today? Will you be that person who reaches out and says, hold up, let me tell you something a little bit different? Let me explain this to you because I know you don't know and I love you so much. Will you be that person? The truth is it can't just be people like Officer Tatum speaking the truth every day. It's got to be people like you. It's got to be people like you who are willing to say, hey, to go out and talk to younger people and who are willing to talk to their grandchildren and talk to their nieces and nephew and talk to their best friend and tell her, hey, or tell him, hey, you're not a victim. Stop with this narrative because it's destroying our country. And we want to continue to be successful. We want to continue to reap the benefits of being an American. That's what we really want. And in order to get there, it's going to require you being a little bit uncomfortable and telling people what they don't want to hear. There's this quote that says, when you want to help people, you tell them the truth. When you want to help yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. Help somebody today. I love you guys. Thank you for watching this episode of the Tamara Neely Show. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like button, and you can always remember you can email me your questions. If you have any questions, email thetamaranelyshow@gmail.com. I am going to be hosting a new segment of the show called Ask Tamara. And if you made it to the end, let me know. Please let me know. I'm super excited, grateful for you to be here. Thanks for watching, and you'll hear from me soon. I love you guys, okay?